Hello, welcome back to Coinscrum's Meet the Founder series. I'm thrilled to be joined today by Alex Mascioli, co-founder at Trade the Chain. Hey, Alex, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Paul. Really appreciate it.
Well, I know you do a lot of interviews yourself and we're reversing roles today. But before we kick off and dive deeper into Trade the Chain, the project that you're working on, we like to find out a little bit about the background of our founders, what you were doing before crypto and what sucked you into this whole crazy world.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So I've been on the traditional side of hedge funds in New York City, primarily in the US, for the last decade or so. And it one day received an inquiry from a large Bitcoin holder back in early 2017 about he's launching a Bitcoin algo fund, and could we be a hedge fund administrator for it? And so, I told him, I said, don't really know what you're talking about, but more than happy to have the meeting. And he came in and we discussed it. And we did end up becoming the administrator for that Bitcoin fund, which was great because that allowed me to learn everything I needed to learn about crypto from one of the OGs in the space. And so it was great. End of 2017, we launched a firm, an institutional hedge fund administrator firm, solely for cryptocurrency. And it was off to the races. And my last position has been for the last year and a half, up until earlier this month, is head of institutional services for BQuant. And that is where basically overseeing the trading and execution, as well as margin financing and lending for institutional players in crypto.
Okay, very interesting. I guess so. You've been at the kind of had a front row seat in this whole evolution from very retail focused marketplace to taking your experience from traditional markets, and then I know at BQuant you're looking to bring in some of that traditional market infrastructure around prime brokerage, etc. So that sort of experience, I guess, has been essential to help these markets start to mature, as we've been seeing over the last couple of years. So let's move on to hear more about Trade the Chain. What inspired you to start the platform, the product? Tell us a bit about your co-founders, your team, and tell us about the product itself.
Yeah, sure. So the story is one of where a friend of mine, Josh, over at the company called tidal data analytics firm, we had gotten together, and they service the institutional side of crypto for sentiment and data analytics. And so we were speaking about midway through last year. And, we were like, wow, I said, Josh, it would be really cool if we could offer this kind of institutional data to the average retail investor, because the hedge funds kind of have a leg up, both from a pocketbook standpoint, as well as what's available for them in order to trade on. And so we formed the idea. I took it, we built out a platform utilizing a multitude of data analysis and APIs, and we came up with Trade the Chain. And we launched officially October 16th of 2020. And it's geared towards the retail investor, the average person, all different levels. And so what happens is they're able to get the same sentiment data signals that the hedge funds are using to trade in order for them to trade themselves.
Okay, very interesting. So, we mentioned before, you've had obviously a lot of experience in traditional markets. We've seen the whole kind of, everyone's becoming a trader now, whether it's crypto traders, whether it's Robinhood traders, the whole world's a trader. Your grandmother's a trader. What else are you doing in your spare time? But having been around these markets and traditional markets myself for a long time, I guess people looking over the fence. Before some of the more institutional investors got in more recently, there's always a question of what are the fundamentals for crypto and these assets, and does technical analysis apply? You don't have the same kind of necessary requirements for companies reporting and announcing news, etc. So what are you looking for? Because I know you kind of developed AI systems which are there to kind of look across all of the channels. What is it specifically you're looking out for? What is it, your algorithms? What sort of data points are you looking out for to apply to these markets, and how does that differ to the more traditional markets?
It's a great question, and you kind of broke it down exactly how it is. There's a very big void of fundamentals when it comes to crypto, right? So on the traditional markets, you may have, let's call it a bank, and you say, hey, what's the intrinsic value of a bank if it had to go into liquidation? Well, we know all the paper and pencils and desks would be worth this much. Here we don't have those type of metrics. We don't have on a majority of the projects the customers, if they even have customers, what that acquisition flow looks like, revenue, if it's disclosed at all, so forth. So here, what we've learned is that unlike traditional markets where you are able to do that fundamental analysis, the sentiment analysis has become the new trading functionality and alert system for a lot of crypto traders. Mm-hmm. And basically what that breaks down into is sentiment analysis is how the market feels, whether it's bullish or bearish. And that's where our data comes into play, as far as AI and data scraping and so forth, so that people can trade on the momentum, the bullish or the bearishness of that sentiment, rather than trying to figure out what's underneath the covers, so to speak, with individual projects, which are often very opaque.
Yeah, and so does that include and this applies, I guess, you have quant firms that would be kind of scraping all over Twitter and kind of getting that as one source for sentiment. You've got every crypto project has obviously got their Twitter feeds, they've got their Reddit feeds, they've got their Discord feeds, Telegram chats. I mean, are you covering all of that, or are you able to?
Yeah, so so on a couple of different signals that we provide, Twitter's been our main source, and what we're doing is we're now expanding across the spectrum to some of the outlets that you've now covered. And what we're doing is, rather than traditional, like anybody can drop a webhook anywhere and just capture everything like an RSS feed, so to speak. What we're doing is we're actually data mining as we scrape through that. So we're contextually translating and reading each of these social posts that are being presented. If it's in a foreign language, we're translating it to English so that we can read it. And we're also able, like on Twitter, for instance, able to identify bot accounts, spam accounts, pump and dump tweets because of our contextualization, and able to eliminate those to produce accurate scoring and sentiment.
Yeah, and I guess, that is a risk. We're seeing so many people, noobs come into the market, and, let's be frank, quite a lot of them, have little experience, if any. Obviously, there's a lot of hype out there. They're attracted by the opportunities, the money-making, the profit-making opportunities, but we all know that doesn't come without risk. And we've seen all the different crypto hype cycles. We're in at least multiple bubbles over the years, and so and unfortunately, retail investors do often get the ones sucked in driving the final parts of these bubbles, because they're kind of last to the table quite often, which is unfortunate. Hopefully, if you've applied a hodl strategy, then in the long run, you've still, if you've had strong hands, then you've still held out. But this is, and we talk about regulators coming into the market, and people are like, don't stifle innovation and all of that. But they're not all bad people, and they're not really they're not complete killjoys. They do have to offer some level of protection to inexperienced traders that are coming in. And we know this space, like all markets, it's not just this space, is ripe for scammers. And if people can go and take advantage, they will. And I guess without some of these tools that you've mentioned, there's a greater risk that people coming in, ending up on the wrong kind of, feed, in the wrong Telegram chat, listening to someone that is literally there just to pump and dump the market. So you're saying you're able to actually, your algorithms are able to learn and to kind of filter out some of that noise, or as much of that noise as possible.
Yeah, so accuracy is really important, and a couple of different metrics we have are like a rolling 1 hour projection of price. So we use the data in order to give what the 1 hour projection price up and the 1 hour projection price down is, along with a weighted mean. And those, in order for us to be accurate, and we're accurate over 90% on those 1 hour projections, we need the truest data available. So, having things like bot accounts that may affect sentiment, or a pump and dump where it may trigger a false positive on a 1 hour projection. Those are things that we're keenly aware of. And so we try to derive a very level head when it comes to producing those scores, because our members count on it.
Mm-hmm. And have you been able, because you said you launched back in October, I think you said, were you able to apply any sort of back testing strategies around this as well? Was that possible?
Yeah, so the functionality is 3 years old, and so we've back tested and we have data going back through that time period, and that's how we calculate, what our success rate is, our accuracy rate, and such. One of the things that really appeals to us is the fact that we get some people who say, "Hey, can you provide a historic of a certain piece of data?" We don't tend to provide a historic of a certain piece of data, because we also know that if somebody goes back and changes social data that they've either posted or edited, that will then trigger a systemic change all the way through. To us, that's not 100% accurate. Only the end game is accurate, what's happening in real time. But yes, it is back tested, and we do have overlays of how sentiments performed to price action over a period of time.
Okay. And so from the user experience, can you just talk a little bit about that? Obviously, they come to your website, tradethechain.com, and they can register. Is this a full execution platform? Are they kind of literally is there to, you providing them signals, and the idea is that they go off and kind of enact upon them themselves through their own trading accounts? Or is this a full kind of end-to-end solution where people are actually trading through the platform on the back of the signals as well?
So we don't provide execution. We're not an exchange. We're not a broker. But it's a great question that's asked by a lot of members. And so one of the things that we're looking forward to doing is we're currently working on a large integration with a major counterparty in the space into our dashboards. And with that, we will let people will have the ability to, if they decide to trade on a coin that they're analyzing in our dashboards, to click through seamlessly into their account that they have with the counterparty in question, and be able to execute the trade pretty efficiently.
Right. Okay. That's cool. That sounds very cool. And you mentioned your community there. So, how can you explain how that works? That's part of the platform, and is the actual kind of human interaction from your team, or is it for community self-managing? Can you just talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, the community is a huge part of the product, and people look at us as data signal providers for them to get alpha on their trading, but truly the community is robust. We our members, we're just about 2,000 members in our community. The members span 23 time zones, which is the max. I learned there's nobody living in the 24th one, and it's active 24 hours a day. We have a members only Discord server that is constantly through multiple different channels that we've implemented in there. People helping each other out, people talking through trade ideas. We have a winner circle where people post their positive trades that they've gotten through the signals and stuff like that. Because our members are diverse and experienced. We have people who are new, and we have people who are very experienced. And so it really is almost self-governing in that way. But we do have community ambassadors that we do elect from the community, as well as we have someone on our core team who's the chief community officer and oversees the whole community. But it's a powerful part of the product. Yeah,
very cool. So looking a bit further forward, you mentioned a few things that you will be kind of adding in, features you'll be adding and rolling out. Is there anything else that you kind of got on your longer term roadmap, and what's your kind of vision for where kind of Trade the Chain kind of goes and what it looks like in a year or two out from here?
Yeah, we have a progressive roadmap. So as one of our focuses on a day-to-day basis is, as we're collecting data, and we require about 200 days per coin of historics to produce scores. We're listing about 30 new coins on our platform every month. From a bigger point of view, we are going through a large integration, like I had mentioned before, where we're going to be marrying up a whole data analytics page to go along with the sentiment. So one of the things that we learned early on, because this is a new business for us as well, we learned how to run a community and membership-based business along with our members. And a lot of these guys like TA. We didn't think of that in the beginning. So we married in this analytics where people can do technical analysis to get affirmation on their sentiment analysis choices. So our full analytics page that's rolling out is going to be huge. It's going to marry everything. So that way people don't actually have to leave the confines of the platform.
Yeah, well, great. And I would recommend people go and have a look. I've been in and seen the dashboard. It's very great UX and UI. So especially, again, for people coming into this fresh and looking to get some of that kind of comfort of a level of trusted support, then it does look like a good place to start.
And we're involved in the community as well. So people DM us all the time, ask us questions, and so we're there. We're right alongside them.
Okay. So what about where you see this industry going in general? I mean, you mentioned your background in fund administration, so kind of the old world. You may be probably looking at it. I'd certainly look at my old time in the markets, and it's like all looks a little bit boring compared to this one. And the promise for many years now is that all of this is going to democratize investment, trading, open everything, make everything fairer. It's not just about the big boys, and even with Robinhood, which is supposed to be doing that, or maybe you've got certain large hedge funds on the other side of those trades all the time doing very well out of it as well. And now with the explosion of DeFi and security tokens starting to emerge after a few years of probably a few regulatory hurdles, where do you see this going? And do you really see your old world being properly disrupted? Do they need to kind of start adapting now, or how real?
I think so. Yeah, I do. I think so. I mean, one of the things that a handful of years ago when security tokens started making their push, I thought that was really going to become a majority of trading in the future. And the reason I say that is because I think that all things equity are going to be digitized, even contracts and various other things, and they'll take the form of a security token. So I think that, when you have traditional hedge funds that are trading stock, they're going to be trading security tokens in the future. And the DTCC here, where you register equities and give them identifiers and numbers, they've been working already or exploring already for years about blockchain and how that's going to work, because I think that will be the future. And I think now we're seeing regulatory approval with some of the big counterparties come to fruition. I think as far as democratizing everything, that listen, this is an opportunity. Hedge funds are about arbitrage. And if there's arbitrage to be had, they're going to go after it. And I think you see that apparent, whether it's in principal trading of crypto with traditional hedge funds that have come in, or whether that's big name hedge funds coming in backing counterparties. You have some of the biggest names in hedge fund managers and asset managers writing checks, particularly this year, to different entities in furthering, their involvement or their evolution process in this. So I think it's too hard to ignore. You have, Anthony Scaramucci, who now touts it. You have Michael Saylor, who touts it very heavily, and Elon Musk, who touts it depending on what day, what side of the bed he wakes up in the morning. But I think those are the names that are propelling it to the forefront. And it's a big deal. I mean, even my friend John Najarian from CNBC last month, he's a famous options trader coming out with a crypto hedge fund. I think you're going to see it become the norm more and more. Mm-hmm. I think every quarter when you see those corporate filings come out to the public and you see, hey, who bought it for their treasury or such, it's going to become more prevalent.
Yeah. And I think, again, there's always going to be that, the kind of staring match with regulators. As we said, it's not always for a bad reason. And, something that is heavily regulated in traditional markets is the dissemination of information and making sure that's properly managed. And now, obviously, we're just inundated with information from everywhere. That's probably going to cause some concerns. But the fact that you can build the tools such as the ones that you're building that have moved from kind of the professional environment filtering down to the retail environment, hopefully these tools are going to offer the regulators comfort that, okay, maybe they can't, apply the same controls going forward in these markets. If there's, anyone can launch a token any day, but if there are tools being developed to at least manage that information, to filter out, what's real, what's not, maybe that's going to be a very important part of this whole ecosystem going forward. Because, I've always said, democratization around markets is really about, democratization of the information. You have the information first, you have the advantage. If everyone gets the information at the same time, then that is what brings fairness to the markets.
I agree. I think that the companies that have been here up until this point are laying that foundation. We've all been through the gray area with the regulators. We've all seen what they like and don't like and those different touch points. And I think moving forward, once the regulation becomes more concrete, we're the ones that have set it. And so from there on forward, it's going to be everybody else conforming to the years of us going through this mishmash with the regulators. And one company I have to give a shout out to is Archax over in London. I mean, because security tokens, those folks have been around for the last 3 years and they are now regulated, and congrats to them. And I think those are the type of firms that are going to set that healthy foundation for retail investors to get excited about.
Yeah, absolutely. We know the guys well, and we know it was an uphill slog for them, but we're thrilled that they actually managed to get that over the line, and a few of our friends as well over in New York as well. So that's all. We're really excited about how this all starts really taking off over the next couple of years. It seems the pieces are all falling into place. Alex, thank you so much for joining us today. Really great to hear about how far you've got with the project so far. Great team. You mentioned Dennis. Dennis is publishing his market roundups each week at Coinscrum.com. So look out for them, because he puts out some great research. So yeah, thanks. And we'll catch up with you soon, and wish you the best of luck.
Very much appreciated. Thanks for having me on, Paul.
Cheers, Alex.